Vi presento ora un punto di riferimento dell'ingegneria automobilistica, un'icona della sua epoca, degna di questo nome. Benvenuta Gallardo.
Welcome to What It Takes to Own. Today we have a very special guest who started a marketing agency that eventually got him in a position to own a supercar icon of the 2000s. Let me introduce you to Brayden Tomicic. Brayden, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me. Seriously, I feel honored.
Oh, I'm honored to have you. Are you kidding me? So tell us about this car that's behind us. What's the spec, model, everything like that?
Yeah, so it's a 2013 Gallardo. It's an LP 560-4, which means 560 is the horsepower, -4 means all-wheel drive. It's really cool to have a car with the factory look of a Squadra Corsa, but not the price of a Squadra Corsa.
Why this car in particular? It's an icon, it's beautiful, it's fast, it sounds amazing, but what about it specifically stood out to you?
Oh, there's so many things, honestly, that stood out to me. It was one of the first real supercars I saw. And honestly, it's a Lamborghini. It had the V10. It has the look. It has the sounds. It was always just kind of we talk about the poster cars of growing up.
Yeah.
This was it for me.
Absolutely.
Amongst many others. But, as far as, stepping stones and cars that I had on my list to knock off, this was very, very quickly one of them that I wanted to knock off.
I know people that love cars are going to do modifications to them. Have you done anything to this car since you got it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a gearhead. I grew up, turning wrench with my dad. So naturally, for me, I've always been modifying cars, and it's kind of allowed me to create a deeper connection with them. It's really difficult because when you get into this space, anything you want to do is minimum starts with a comma, you know? So it makes that hard because you're like, man, when I had my Mustang and a few other cars for, a few $100, you could do quite a bit of modifications. This one, not so much, but we did do some load ring springs all around just to kind of have it settle, which actually made the ride a lot better. The factory springs are pretty rough. So we lowered it around, obviously did the wheels. We added the wing. For the purists, they probably aren't gonna like that because that's a Superleggera wing. This obviously isn't Superleggera.
It looks sick, that's all I care about.
Same, yeah. And it was nice because this car wasn't optioned with a rear camera, so it was a way for me to add a rear camera in it for reverse, because the blind spots on this are horrible. And then really just little things. The exhaust, obviously, we did a custom 101 Dark Star exhaust, full titanium. It's actually the only one on the market with that design. It's really cool.
Sounds great too. Here, let's take a listen. And there you go.
I love the sound of it. It's hard to make these sound unique, but we kind of added our own little flair to it.
It's awesome.
And then one of probably my most favorite modifications to the car is there's a company that makes OEM radios with Apple and Android CarPlay and they kind of jailbroken the radio. And so it looks factory on the inside, but when you turn it on, you get the nice Apple Car features, because the one thing about Lamborghini is they're always about 5 years behind the curve of tech, at least until recently. Now, I don't need all the tech because it's a driving car, so they don't want to add too many features.
Sure.
But it's a little crazy how much it lacks.
Dude, I feel the exact same way because I have a 2019 Honda Civic as my daily driver, and I have an Aston Martin Vantage from 2020. So it's a year newer than my Civic is, and it was brand new, it was 7 times the cost. The tech and creature comforts in my Civic immensely outpaced what was in my Aston Martin. And that was so crushing to get into that car and be like, wow, I'm really behind the times with this thing that is supposed to be cutting edge, way nicer. But like you said, it is driver's focused. You're mostly doing it to have fun and not so much cruise control or things like that.
Exactly. Yeah, and that is one thing that kind of sucks about this is if you do want to road trip it, no cruise control in this either.
Yeah,
so my R8 at least had that.
Yeah, that's the things we do for the things that we love.
Absolutely.
What has been your ownership experience overall with this car?
Yeah, so because I really haven't done any power adders to this car, reliability has been really good. I mean, the 5.2, that V10 is super reliable, especially compared to its predecessor, the 5.0. Even though the 5.0 sounds better, I do like the reliability of the 5.2 a lot.
Yeah.
One of the modifications I did forget is I converted it to rear-wheel drive. So an all-wheel drive car converted to rear wheel, just so it's a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, a little more engaging. Well, that's awesome. What have been some of the more surprising parts about owning this car?
The car handles the way you expect it to handle. It's very engaging. It's emotional. Like when you think of Lamborghini, you know, their logo's a raging bull.
Yeah,
This emphasizes, I think, everything that the brand stands for.
that's so cool.
And I absolutely love that. And so the things that kind of stood out to me was more so the reactions, both positive and negative. So as far as the car itself, it was everything I hoped and dreamed for. Obviously, driving in traffic sucks with the single clutch. That part was a little bit. But you know, you get people who just absolutely love the car for multiple reasons. Either they saw it or never really saw them growing up, and the fact that they're seeing another one now, they're like, this is crazy. You know, you see some people who just see the Lamborghini badge and go, this is a Lamborghini, and then, you know, obviously put it high up on the totem pole.
For sure.
And are like, this is insane. And then you've got kind of the opposite reaction too, which is really interesting. You've got people who are like, oh, who's this young kid driving a Lamborghini? Who the hell does he think he is? In fact, I had one guy, it was a really interesting day because I was pulling out of a meeting and he like went out of his way to block traffic and cuss me out. He was having a bad day, obviously, but he like saw the car and thought I was just some like corporate asshole who was like, oh, you know, you're utilizing somebody else's efforts to make you all this money. And I'm like, dude, like what's going on? Like, I don't even know you. I didn't cut you off. Like, in fact, you were just at this light and I pulled up to it and decided to have this interaction. And that luckily has been very rare. There's really nothing in the middle. You get people that either love it or are like, ugh.
Interesting.
Like, I'm not going to give you the attention.
I would have never known. I see this car and I freak out. I don't care who's driving it. So to each their own, I guess. What have been some of the more disappointing parts about owning this car, if any?
I do wish that they would have done better with the transmission as far as like drivability. Like, you know, if you get stuck in traffic, like the clutch and how the gas and the clutch and transmission engage is not amazing. In fact, that's why this car gets hated a lot on, because they're like, oh, you'll burn through clutches, blah, blah, blah. But in the same way that that is disappointing, it also is what makes the car really exciting, because that single clutch makes the car super engaging. And now that it's converted rear wheel drive, like the back end will kick out, especially if the tires are cold. And I don't know, like there's really not a lot that I've run into that I've been like, dang, this is a disappointing aspect about the car.
I think that's an interesting point to make about especially this generation of cars where they were evolving technologies and they were starting to figure out what really made something efficient or desirable in the market. That gives this car a lot of character. And you get to the point nowadays where everything has a hybrid powertrain, they have dual clutches. Everything starts to feel more and more similar to each other. And that what makes the cars from the 90s, early 2000s, early 2010s so special to me, is because they do have these little quirks that make it such a different experience from the cars that you're buying today.
Absolutely. And you know, you never would think about someone's flaw or like a car's flaw making that the reason why the car has its character and why it makes it so special.
Yeah.
But it really does. And honestly, once you kind of figure it out, it just makes it so much more fun, in my opinion. There's so many people who walked up to me in this car and are like, oh, it's not a manual? And I'm like, oh, sorry.
It's a Gallardo. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm like, honestly, like I really was looking for one, but they never made them in the final edition, at least not that I could find. And you can convert it, but now we're back to the same conversation of earlier of that starts with a comma and it's a large number to get the conversion done.
Yeah, that's like 5-digit territory. That's a commitment. What are people not fully aware of if they haven't been in an ownership position before?
So reliability is like definitely number one as far as conversation. A lot of misconceptions too are just like, oh, it's e-gear, so how does it drive? And the best way I explain that to people even is just think of a manual car, but instead of shifting with your hand and like a clutch pedal, you're shifting with paddles. Because it is a manual transmission. You can pull the hydraulic actuator off, put the cables in, you know, obviously tune the car so it doesn't get pissed off that there's nothing happening. And it's a manual car. So you have to kind of treat it as such. Also ownership history too. A lot of people when they see this car, especially if they don't know me or haven't run into me before or know my page, which I don't expect people to. You know, the funny thing about owning a car like this is everyone asks, how long have you owned it? And it's been really interesting to watch their reaction now that I've owned it for almost 4 years, actually 4 years officially earlier this month. So
Golf claps for Brayden.
Exactly. You know, they go from like, oh, this is potentially new money or he's got a lease or whatever to like, oh, okay, cool. So you own this car, like you're not one of those hype boys who just goes and rents a car for a weekend to show off to a few people.
So stemming back to the maintenance, and you say it's more reliable than people claim it is. What is maintenance like? What is it, running up a big figure on a yearly basis, or is it mostly taking care of you as long as you take care of it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the latter, right? As long as you take care of the car, it'll take care of you. These cars love to be driven, and that's honestly why I love it. If you mosey them around forever and never really get on them, you get carbon buildup, other things can cause maintenance issues. These things love to be wide open, and they actually really not just come alive, but they thrive, wide open. And so there's those types of things. And honestly, as long as you do the oil changes, as long as you're checking coolant and you're just taking care of it, it'll be fine.
That's something that I preach a lot on my pages. If you don't follow already, follow on Instagram and TikTok. But we talk a lot about the more that you're driving a car, or if you're looking for a car that's used, it's an exotic, if it has more miles on it, I personally would recommend that probably proves to you that car is capable of being driven long distances without having any major issues. Obviously, you got to check the service history and ownership history, but I preach that same thing. If you're going to have a car sit for a long time, you can imagine there's going to be some issues that are going to come up that weren't expected because nobody was driving it to be able to figure it out. And that was the exact same case with my Vantage, where I bought something that did have higher miles, but it had a clean ownership history. It had been taken care of. So when I got into it, I was like, yeah, we're going to put on 5,000 miles a year at least. And it's been a dream to own. There's been no issues like that.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because you hear about guys who will buy low mileage cars. And the thing that I hear from them, because some of these guys do want to buy them and then drive them a little bit. And if it's old enough, gaskets have dried up, rubber seals have cracked over the years because they weren't properly lubricated or they didn't do enough warm-up cycles on the car. And then they just kind of run down this rabbit hole. And for a lot of people, that ends up ruining the experience. And so, if you're looking for an exotic car that you could actually drive, really drive, it is kind of scary to get into a low mileage example because you never know, even though it's been taken care of, you never know what issues you're going to run into because the car really hasn't even been broken in yet.
So you bought this car just over 4 years ago. You bought it used, obviously, unless they just kept it on ice the entire time for you. But what kind of figures were you working with? I'd love to know how much you spent on it, but if you don't want to share, that's totally fine. What did you buy this car for?
So he had it listed at 120. After a little negotiation and kind of going back and forth, obviously had it PPI'd. I know you recommend that on your
Absolutely.
channel, so follow him if you haven't.
Never skip that, I swear.
Never. I mean, you never know what you're going to get into, and there's so many things that can be hidden on this car, and really any exotic car. So it's really good to get that checked out, and everything came back really clean. And so I paid $117,000. That was what I paid for it, and it's retained its value pretty well.
Do you know roughly what value you're looking at here in this car today?
So it's hard to really say where the values land. Mine has 57,000 miles on it.
That's
I bought
sick.
it with 20,000 miles.
I love that, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I've enjoyed every second of it. This is
As you
truly a
should.
car I think I'll just end up keeping forever unless someone offers me a ridiculous amount of money. But between 115,000 and I've seen them go for as much as 165,000 just for this kind of year, an example.
With all of that in mind, would you buy this car again?
10 times over.
10 times over.
10 times over.
Gonna keep it forever. Don't foresee any major issues coming down the pipeline.
No, and honestly, the major issues that I expect are clutch related. It's a 13-year-old car at this point, so I expect some things to come up. It's got to have its regular maintenance, spark plugs, all of that. But really, I mean, it is it's a car I really plan on keeping forever. And again, money's money. Everything has a price. But yeah, there's no reason for me to sell it because it is just so great.
Now that we know all about the car and everything you've done to it, what your experience has been like, walk us through your career path and how you got into a position to afford this car.
My career, as far as in a profession, started in sales. That position expanded to more brand strategy and marketing, while also helping scale sales teams and organizations in that realm. In the midst of all of that, I was doing photos. I started doing photos over 10 years ago, before I even started doing sales. And so there's always a creative aspect to me that loved you know, taking a camera out and grabbing some really cool photos of cars, especially. I mean, this is obviously our passion. Just that kind of stemmed into one thing after another. It wasn't like I had an epiphany one day and was like, this is what I want to do, this is my dream. It was just talking with a lot of people who were much better off than I was, who gave me a perspective of what I should be doing with my money, where I can allocate it, and then also gave me the inspiration to then eventually start my own agency. Been doing that for about 5 years now, and it's been amazing. It has its great days, and then it has days where I'm like, holy crap, why am I doing this?
Sure.
But yeah, started an agency. In the midst of that, I started a merchandise company that's also paired with a nonprofit that we started. We actually launched last year, and the rest is history. We've got rental properties, but the accumulation of all of that over time has allowed me to kind of up my pay scale and make something like this possible.
That's amazing. Got a lot of irons in the fire. I'm curious about the transition where it ultimately became, I'm doing this corporate gig for a company and now I want to go do my own thing. What was like the moment that changed it all?
Yeah, so I mean, I went from doing sales, and anyone who's been in the sales industry knows how lucrative it is. And it truly is the golden handcuffs, right? You work your butt off and you can make a pretty good living. The difficult part about it is, you're making a lot of money for the company, and they, depending on the pay structure, you're getting a pretty generous wage because of that. But overall, regardless of whatever company says, there's always a ceiling that you're always going to hit. And to me, I never really loved that. I always wanted to go bigger and bigger and bigger because, I have some pretty aspirational goals, even just outside of cars.
Absolutely.
It was like the 1,000 straws until that last one that broke the camel's back. And I just realized and recognized, like, I was making these guys tons of money under my efforts, under my own knowledge and skills. And in some situations, I was brought into companies because of my experience, because of my knowledge and my history in sales and marketing. And there was just like a switch in my head where I was like, I have to make the jump and do this for myself. If I can do this for somebody else, why couldn't I do it for myself? And there was not an easy choice by any means. Jumping out of the corporate world to really the unknown was, not easy. You're walking into a space where there is no security, there's no insurance plan, there's no PTO. Like, the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, how successful that day is completely up to me. The day I quit, I just went out, and I can't say I haven't looked back since, because there's been times where it's like, man, that would be really nice to just know that I'm getting a paycheck at the end of the month. But honestly, for the life I live and the freedom that it's gained me and the experiences and the people that I've been able to, create relationships with over the years, I wouldn't change it for the world.
What have been some of the hardest challenges since you've departed from that regular, stable sales job and going and doing your own thing? What has been like some of the keystone milestones that you've had to get past, or the speed bumps?
Yeah, there's so many, right? Because when you go and do your own thing, there's no accountability other than for yourself, right?
Have to be very self-motivated.
Oh, 100%. And if you're not a self-motivated person, and consistently, like, everyone can ride the hype train for a second. You have a brilliant idea, you get really excited, you get past the honeymoon phase of that idea, and then you're like, all right, well, maybe it's the next one. Because that's such a rush and such a high. But truthfully, like, you have to have a lot of self-motivation. You have to be willing and humble enough to continue to learn. Because you're faced constantly with new challenges. There's always some sort of speed bump, and you never expect it. There's the legal side, there's the tax side that you're trying to figure out, and especially when you're running your own business and it's just you, there's a lot of hats you have to wear. And then when you start bringing in partners or employees and people that you're working with, there's so many more things you have to learn and adapt to. But I think some of the key ones, at least for me, was personal growth. On days where, you wake up and you're tired and you're not really mentally there to still go out and do that type of work was really hard to break through, because you're like, man, like, I don't want to do this today. Like, I could easily clock in a job, make 1 or 2 sales that day, or do whatever I needed to do, and then clock out and still know I'm getting a paycheck at some level.
Yeah.
Where this, it's like, if I don't show up, the bills don't get paid.
You could lose an account, you could lose a client. It's all very dependent.
100%. And so, there's a lot of personal growth in that, because I had to, in the moments where I feel like I was my weakest and it would be easy to just well, let me go hang out with this friend, or I'm going to go golf and clear my mind or do whatever. It's like, no, like I can do that when it's appropriate, but just I have to wake up and I have to continue to grind.
So it developed a bit of, well, I'm not saying you didn't have this already, but just strengthened your self-accountability and being able to rely on, I know this needs to get done and I believe in this enough that I'm going to choose to do that instead of doing the easy thing or the thing that's going to give you the instant gratification in the moment.
100%. And truthfully, when you're doing things on your own, instant gratification, I feel like, is one of the biggest evils, because, you know, you get a small task complete and it may not even be beneficial or even matter towards your business, but you feel a level of completion and success in that.
Yeah.
And so understanding, okay, well, which things actually matter versus which don't, and prioritizing that. And then I think the other side of it too is discipline is not something that is just given to you, or it's a constant daily battle. It's not like, you know, a habit or something you pick up and then it just is with you and you're always disciplined. Like, there is constantly battles every single day that force you to stay disciplined and challenge that. And so, you know, it's definitely something you have to do and continue to do in order to progress and, you know, maintain that momentum in whatever you're doing.
Absolutely.
Right? Whether that's in your own business or a hobby or whatever.
Yeah, I'd say branching off of that, the things that are most worthwhile in life are going to be the things that require the most amount of work, discipline, effort, grit, determination, whether it's a relationship that you might be in, a career that you're pursuing, a business you're trying to develop, a car you're trying to find yourself in. All of those things, I would say, are going to require a pretty high level amount of conviction and discipline or focus even. Because if you get distracted or if you start doing other things before an idea comes to full fruition, you're doing yourself a disservice, because there's not really compounding effects on something if you're constantly starting over. Like, you have to really have the patience to see something through to the end.
Oh, 100%. I mean, this is not something you could just go buy tomorrow, right? When I talk with people about like, oh, well, how did you just afford the Lamborghini one day? I was like, there were so many stepping stones to get to this point, not just in cars, but financial stepping stones you have to work through.
Yes.
And unfortunately, none of them come overnight. And it's hard because you do see so many people who are like, you know, again, there's a lot of overnight success people,
Yeah.
You know, whether they did well in Bitcoin, they, you know, doubled down and had a big hit in the stock market, whatever it might have been. But I would say for 95 to 98% of people, I don't know where I'm pulling that percentage, but that's kind of my feeling.
90% of statistics are made up, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I do feel like a lot of those guys, you know, they have the appearance of an overnight success. But then when you have a conversation with them, you're like, this was years of compounding work and determination to get to that point. And unfortunately, you didn't get to see all of that. You just see them when now they can celebrate and actually enjoy the fruits of their labor.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if you're familiar with this saying, but there's people that say luck is just opportunity meeting preparation. So the people that are prepared for the opportunity when it finally comes, it might appear as luck, like they just stumbled into something, but really they are somebody that's been fine-tuning their skills and learning more about stocks, markets, learning a craft, a skill. And eventually an opportunity arose and they seized it. And that's when it ultimately appears lucky, because they were just ready for whatever was coming to them.
Absolutely. I love that. And that is probably the best way I've ever heard that, because when I was in college, I would go to occasionally this McDonald's that was really close. I went to UVU. There's a McDonald's on 800 North on the corner. You know, I had all these courses I was taking. I was working pretty much full time and going to school full time, trying to juggle both and, you know, enjoy cars and go hang out with friends as a young person should. And I had this dumb mentality where if I was in public and people could see I was working hard, that the opportunities would come. I wasn't providing any type of value to anybody else.
Like, people would just notice what you were doing, and by extension, they'd just be like, oh, we got to give this guy money or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
I literally had this like daydream in my head that like somebody would come through and be like, this kid seems determined. And I'm like, that's dumb. I was eating a breakfast burrito with a laptop in the corner of McDonald's.
Right.
Like, the thing I learned and what changed my mentality is when I started doing things for myself and creating the opportunities and putting myself out there in more than just a way of like, hey, I hope you see me. Like, no. I'm going to come to you with the opportunity. I'm going to provide value in your life. That's when the opportunities flew in.
Yes.
And so you know, people talk about luck, but really it's just about the right tee up.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. Like if I spent,
Introductions are everything.
absolutely. And you know, you never know. You could spend 10 years learning about a subject and really going in and nerding out and being like, this is it. Like, this is really cool. And it may never pay off, but there is an opportunity if you put yourself in enough right rooms where that can be applicable and have an immense value to either yourself or an individual or a company. And that's where those come from. But that's not something you can just fall into necessarily.
I would love to hear if you have 30 seconds of wisdom and inspiration that you could give to our audience, any sort of insights or things that you want them to walk away with from this episode.
I think there's two things I walk away from, and honestly, this comes from the second segment, more so than the first segment. One is if there's anything that's easy to obtain, it's probably not valuable or it's not worth it. And then second thing is anything that is good in life takes time. Those are two things I very much try to live by and remind myself that the things that I truly want in life, it takes time and it doesn't come over. It's not easy.
I love that. I think you did it perfectly in the 30-second window too.
Yes, I tried.
That was beautiful. This has been What It Takes to Own with Brayden Tomicic and his beautiful Lamborghini Gallardo. Brayden, where can people keep up with you? What do you want them to know about?
You can follow me on Instagram, Brayden Tomicic, right here on the handle. My marketing company, if you are a business or an e-com and that wants help growing your business and really making a splash in a very saturated marketplace, call us. We help do that, and that's besocialnow.net. And then if you are an automotive enthusiast and you want to help a good cause, Throttle Therapy Club. I started a foundation last year. It's aimed towards men's mental health. So, we're trying to provide resources, raise funds, and sell really cool merchandise to give back to the community.
Amazing work, man. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. If you liked what you saw today, be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok. We'll be posting more of these clips and highlights, as well as some other insights on how to be a smarter exotic owner. And be sure to subscribe and hit the notification on YouTube, because there's a lot more of these coming. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dude, this was awesome. I think that's it.
That's the one.
I think that's it. Oh, I only got one shot. So.